We continue with the mother wound series in relation to the men. And this is from a biblical perspective. Agiso Tongoi says that she contemplated some of the men in the Bible who probably or possibly would have had a mother wound due to their circumstances or the circumstances surrounding their birth. And for a long time, I associated with Moses in the Bible because of those personality tests. And how they had come out for me was that I realized that I was very temperamental as a younger child. And how Agiso brings this out is Exodus chapter 2, when Moses was born to his mother Jochebed, who had been very stressed during her pregnancy. If you're not familiar, they were Jewish, and around this time there was an order by the king at that time to have all the Jewish newborns killed, so that that were male, and so that is what would have been stressful to this lady Jochebed during her pregnancy. And Agiso goes on to say that she might not have known, and I guess that during those days there was no way of knowing what gender of a child you are carrying, and she probably inadvertently passed this anxiety on to her child in the womb, and only to realize that it was a boy at birth and he needed to be hidden. And she says that the nursing infant suffered separation anxiety after having lived with his mother for a few months in a very tense environment. The baby should not cry. The baby should not do this. They should not pass by here. There is no baby. And if life had to look as normal as possible to the outsiders so that they could protect his life. And Agiso says that, again, when he came of crying age, and she realized that there is now no way of hiding this baby. When his cry was loud enough, she realized, I just have to let this baby go. And you can imagine what that took from a mother. And sometimes as a man, you might feel like you grew up in that tense environment, that environment that was sort of harsh and very fragile for you to experience who you really are or who you wanted to be as a young boy, as a young man, your interests. Maybe you came from a very controlling environment, and then at some point you are even sent to do, something that was definitely not in your preference. And Moses was put in a basket and left alone to float on water. Can you imagine that? And how many times have our parents, our mothers, because of lack of a better way of doing it, put us in baskets? Just go, you'll find your way. Help will find you on the way. And not in backlash, but I'm saying, imagine this infant who now has to just be on the water and hear, maybe the birds, and no one is feeding him. And so he tries to sleep it off, but then he can't. His little belly can't wait any longer, and then he cries out. And by the grace of God, this basket finds its way to the king's daughter who is taking a bath. And she takes him. And Agiso says that separation anxiety from his mother must have done something to him. And then she goes on to say that next was his identity issue, because he grew up in an Egyptian household, yet he was a Jew. So his scripts are conflicting. Remember those factory settings? They are conflicting. There seems to be an overwrite that seems to be permitted on his template design. And sometimes as men, you might wonder, why am I in this loop? Why am I in this loop? And you realize mostly as firstborns, if you were born before your mother got married, or you are born from a father who is not the father of the other children, or your mom had a situation when you were born, your identity mostly seems to be in crisis. And Giso goes on to say that Moses seemed to have suffered from disorganized or disoriented attachment, and these symptoms have been seen through his life in the inability of him to control his anger outbursts. So this is the small baby who later grew up and had a conversation with the good Lord, and was even given tablets written with the handwriting of the Lord. And the first thing he does when he leaves that presence is just throw them down. You know, I cannot take it anymore. And sometimes, if you found yourself being in that state of outbursts all the time and losing your control, maybe we need a conversation. Maybe we need to realign, to have you restored on who you really are. For men, I think my strongest word, the word I could share with you and just ask you to ponder over, is authenticity. How authentic do you feel that you are? And Agiso goes on to say that another symptom of insecure attachment that is seen in Moses' life is the cultural disorientation. So, he's a Jew, brought up in the Egyptian household with the Egyptian way of living, and so he acquires their mannerisms, and until he goes to the working space and someone reminds him, you know, I saw you kill someone. You won't do what you did to someone else. Do you see the conflict of this man? And how, who would have Moses been had he kept his factory settings? As a man, have you found yourself, because of the life experience, the quality of life as well? Remember, we said the mother wound in a man's or in any child's life is not what you went through. It's also what you lacked, what you were denied, what you did not have access to. And so I am seated here trying to process being a man, a sort of a pillar in society, and your template is not authentic for one reason or another. Your factory settings are overwritten. You've been through so much. You're the only one who understands your brokenness. And I remember during COVID, when I was experiencing one of my lowest moments, I dared to call those toll-free numbers. And I found a guy who was a counselor, and he walked me through that next 2 hours. And he told me to find a place and to sit down and to cry it out. He was a man, and he shared with me his own journey about how he ended up with a potted plant as something he could show love to, and it would respond to him, because he had also been through a broken experience. And he shared with me that he used to take long showers because that's where he would be broken. That's where he felt safe to cry. As a man, is this resonating with you? Did you have a Moses experience? Please click on the next video, because then I'm talking about Prophet Samuel and his experience with a motherhood attachment. And I pray that as you navigate through your life, if you've come through to this video has shown up on your feed, please do something to restore yourself, to heal your bloodline. The pain can end. And if you're a wife, like Zipporah did for Moses, she circumcised their child. Stand in for your man, support him, and let him know that it is well. that you're there to help him navigate on this journey.